Chapter 792. Lady Richard snorted coldly before she said, "If I don't repay the bank that money, I will be taken away and locked up in prison directly. Don't forget that I am the corporate legal representative for Richard Group. I am also the person who will be held responsible for the debts of the company." Michael hurriedly said, "Then you should at least keep $100,000 or $200,000 for the family so that we can still sustain ourselves for a short while. I can't even afford to smoke a pack of cigarettes that is $50 now." "You still want to smoke cigarettes?" Lady Richard replied sharply, "It would already be great if you have food to eat and you're still thinking about smoking." Michael held back the anger that he was feeling and he could not help but sigh as he said, "Mom, I'm already old so I can still tolerate it. However, Harold and Olivia are still young. They have not suffered much in the past so we can't let them suffer now." Lady Richard snorted coldly, "I don't care. We can just cut back our spending on food and clothing so that we can overcome all of the difficulties that our family is facing right now." Harold and Olivia were both very dissatisfied when they heard Lady Richard's words. Both of them had been spoiled and coddled ever since they were young. They weren't used to suffering and living so miserably. Ever since Lucy ran away with their family's money, they had already been living a very tough and miserable life during this period of time. However, now that Lady Richard already had some money on hand, she was still very unwilling to spend the money on sustaining the Richard family. Instead, she was even thinking of cutting down even further on their food and clothing expenses. Was she really trying to kill them? At this time, Harold hurriedly said, "Grandma, it's easy for you to say that because you're already old and you don't need to eat or drink much. Therefore, it is easy for you to cut down on food. However, how can this be possible for my sister and I? Both of us are not used to this kind of suffering at all. I have already lost a few kilograms after eating less for the past few days." "Yes, Grandma," Olivia said, "the cosmetics that I used to use would cost tens of thousands of dollars. Now, I can only use the most common and generic cosmetic brand, L'Oreal. Now, I don't even have any money to buy any more cosmetics while my bottle of L'Oreal is already running out. Grandma, do you really expect me to use disparity honey that costs a few dollars?" After she was done speaking, Olivia said, "Grandma, I don't care. You have to give me at least $20,000 so that I can buy a set of La Mer for my face today. Otherwise, my face will really be completely ruined." Lady Richard snorted coldly before she said, "You're already so poor and desperate and you're still dreaming of buying a set of La Mer? Why can't you use disparity honey? You're so useless that you can't even grasp onto Sean Richard. If you could have just held tightly onto him, would the Richard family have ended up in this situation right now?" Olivia could not help but blurted out, "What has this got to do with me? Alex was the one who made Sean lose his manhood and become an impotent man. I was actually coaxing and pleasing him very well before he lost his manhood. Don't forget that he even gave me $10 million and he also gave millions of dollars to the Richard family. So what?" Lady Richard replied coldly, "Didn't he leave in the end? If you were really capable, you would have been able to make him stay even if he had really lost his manhood. No matter what it is, you failed to do so because you're simply useless." Michael had been holding back his anger, but when he heard the old lady speaking ill of his daughter, he could not help but feel a little angry. At this time, he started yelling in frustration, "Mom, Olivia has already followed all of your instructions regarding Sean Richard. How could you push all the blame to her at this time? How could you abandon your benefactor after achieving your own goal?" Lady Richard snorted coldly, "You're saying that I am abandoning my benefactor after achieving my goals? Did I really achieve my goals? Everything obviously fell apart before we could even achieve any of our objectives at all. I'm in this state right now all because of her." Michael replied angrily, "Mom, no matter what it is, you can't use all the money to repay the bank loan. We should keep at least $200,000 to sustain ourselves and stay alive. Otherwise, you should take out some of the antiques that my dad has left behind and sell it for some money so we can have some money for ourselves. Even if you keep hiding the antiques, you won't even be able to take those things with you when you die anyway. Are you cursing me and hoping that I'll die now? Lady Richard was very angry and she said in a cold voice, "Are the three of you trying to go against me now?" Lady Richard's voice was very sharp and terrifying. She really did not expect Michael, who had always been very obedient to her, to suddenly be so courageous and daring to oppose and confront her directly. Furthermore, he was even brave enough to speak so harshly to her. At this point, Lady Richard also realized that her eldest son, grandson, and granddaughter were not really following her because they wanted to. The three of them were simply parasites that were attaching themselves to her and sucking all the nutrients out of her body. The more they acted this way, the more she had to hold on to her money and belongings. She would never allow them to succeed and have their way.